You're listening to the Prosperity Report Love and Money podcast. Find out what every couple needs to become a winning team in love and money. We bring you actionable ideas from expert therapists and experienced married couples, helping you stay happily married longer. Stay tuned until the end. We'll leave you with a tip you can start using today in our 5-minute activation segment. Now here's your host, best-selling author, speaker, and psychotherapist, Kanae Corder.
Welcome to Prosperity Report, Love and Money podcast. I want to give a special hello to my Prosperity Club members. Thanks for listening, Prospros. If you're not a member of the Prosperity Club community, join us now. It's free. Go to kanaecorder.com/Facebook. I'll see you there. But in the meantime, let's get into today's show on adoption. We'll discuss the ups, downs, and financial investment of adoption. My guest today, Andrea Sisler, former nurse and mother of 4, has been married for 27 years. She is a child advocate for Small World Adoption Agency, helping families through the adoption process. With 2 internationally adopted children of her own, coupled with her nursing experience, Andrea knows all too well the bright side and the dark side of adoption. Andrea credits her faith in God for getting her through all of life's transitions and admits she is still learning. Please join me in welcoming our guest, Andrea Sisler.
Hey, Andrea.
Hi.
How's it going today?
Good.
I'm so excited because we're doing something new. I am actually in Andrea's office and we're recording together face to face. Which I normally record virtually. So this is kind of exciting to actually sit down with you.
Yeah.
So we have quite a few things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the idea of prosperity. We'll even talk about some of the experiences you've had over a 27-year marriage, but specifically the adoption experience. And then I would love to kind of even talk about how that experience can affect you financially. However you like to share that, whatever you feel comfortable with, tell us, please. But I know that in one part of it, you've experienced it. You are an adoptive parent, but you also help in facilitating that for other people. So we'll talk about that as well. All right. So let's get down to it with one of my favorite questions. The first question I like to ask is, what is your idea of prosperity?
What is my idea of prosperity? I think it can be a pretty deep concept, but for me, I would have to look at God and how God's will for my life is, what he created me to do. And then how I look and have done things on my own free will and how they haven't aligned. So I would say my true prosperity would be what God's will is for Andrea's life and just how that has woven together, I guess.
Yeah.
And how I've made a lot of wrong turns and went down some deep valleys and then been on some pretty good mountains. But at the end of the day, I think to feel 100% like at peace and to know I'm in the place I need to be, that's when I really got a strong relationship with God. And that to me is my prosperity. And I think it's an ongoing process.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't think I've reached my full potential, and I think it's kind of neat that it's not a one and done thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can continue and it's going to evolve and it's going to change.
Right. And even your idea of prosperity can shift sometimes. When you're younger, what your idea of prosperity might be is different than what it is after, you've become older or just experienced,
life. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's great. Because what I hear you saying is when you feel like you are in line with what God will want for you. So that peace comes because you're saying, God is probably proud of me right now.
Yeah, proud of me, but more in the sense that how God created us all for a specific purpose. Although we all were created in His image, what I may have deemed my purpose in life was, to be a secretary, and then God says, "Oh no, I got another thing for you, and I think you'll be good at this." But then, so oftentimes I think, self-esteem and lack and brokenness in myself didn't allow me to follow what God's path was, because I didn't think I had what it took.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think with maturity in relationship with God, and just maturity in life and lessons in life, I've come to a better place with that.
Absolutely. And what I find is that everybody's idea of prosperity is different, right? So there's no right or wrong. And I think also society kind of has us believe that we have to follow some pattern, that's already out there, right? Which
Sure.
is usually not the one right for you.
No. Most of the time, yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't right for me.
Absolutely. And we've talked about this in the past, and and we all joke about it in this area where your office is here, where my office is in this area. I think this is a place where that following that society, 2 kids and a dog and the white picket fence, and then keeping up that appearance.
Yep.
This place can facilitate you not being in line with your idea.
100%. Yeah. And when we moved here in 1996, I remember telling my husband, I feel like I walked into the movie of the Stepford Wives. And the original Stepford Wives, I think they remade it.
Yeah, they
several
did.
years later, whatever. And I said, this isn't for me. I don't fit in the mold of playing tennis or going to lunch every day. And I didn't even know what an au pair was. And so many of my neighbors had au pairs.
Oh, okay.
And here I am, a stay-at-home mom.
Right. You're like,
feeling very blessed. Like, I get to stay home with my kids. And au pair, what is an au pair? So it really, it was an eye-opener for me.
Right.
I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Maybe you're right. So the definition of their prosperity was different than my prosperity.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to know you over the year, and I know that you feel comfortable throwing on your baseball cap. And
Hey, and I didn't put one on today. I almost did. I thought, I'm going to put that baseball cap on. Nope, I'm going to do my hair today.
No, your hair looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I know that you feel comfortable in that way, and you'll do that, and you'll move about. But some people are like, I will never be seen.
Oh, but it's taken time to get there. That's not always been the way it's been. I would say I probably had lack of self-esteem. What are people going to think? And so that wasn't always the way I felt comfortable in my own skin.
Okay.
Definitely more so now than ever. Yeah.
So then talk to me about how you maybe pass that down to your children, knowing that you've experienced that, and no parent wants their child to experience low self-esteem, Yeah. So what kind of work have you done to pass that?
I think one of the things I do like to talk. I'm a talker, and I can remember even when my older kids were little, my adult kids were little, I always talked to them. I always read to them. But when I was in the 4th grade, I was told by my teacher that I was stupid and I never ever would amount to anything. What? And I'm 54 years old today. And it's crazy to think that comment impacted me. Well, my parents held me back in 4th grade. And honestly, I carried that with me for years. So I'd always tell my kids, you can do whatever you put your mind to do. I kind of had that kind of the attitude where you tell me I can't do something.
Oh, yeah.
I'll show you I can do it.
Yeah.
That was kind of my in me. Went to nursing school, and I graduated from nursing school, which I think is pretty hard. Nursing school is pretty hard.
Absolutely.
And so I would always think to myself, boy, if I could go back and tell her now, that teacher, I kind of always had that, just want to let her know that I did do something you said I would never be able to do.
In your face.
So when it comes to my kids, I always told them about my life. I always said, you know what? Can you imagine not being able to read in 4th grade? And I have a 4th grader right now. Our youngest is in 4th grade. And I always told them, you can do whatever you put your mind to, but it's not always going to be easy.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to work your butt off. You have to work 10 times harder than a classmate, a peer. But if you want it bad enough, you can do it. And I look at my kids, my older kids now, they did take that to heart. And of course, when they're little, you don't know if they're listening.
Right. You know,
yeah, okay, Mom, whatever. But yeah, they have taken that to heart. And then my oldest daughter, we had to hold her back in 1st grade because she had a learning disability. She's now 23 years old. Our other daughter, we had to hold back because she had to learn, our adopted daughter. So I look back now and I think God used my hardship as a 4th grader, feeling stupid, being called dumb, And now I can say to my kids, guys,
This is not defined you.
It's not defining who you are. I was a C student and I'm doing okay in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm being able to take my stuff and sharing it with my kids at a level they can understand it. But then I had no idea that I would have two kids that would
experience
the same thing. Yeah. Difficult in school.
And what's incredible now, like what advantage they have that you didn't have, is that they talk about this stuff a lot more. And there are plenty of, successful people that talk about maybe having dyslexia or having learning disabilities and how it did hold them back. They didn't make it through college because they had been told they were stupid or they never make it. But they found a way to push through and maybe find what was their passion or purpose in life.
And I think it's perseverance. And I think a lot of it is either you have that inside you. I don't think you can teach somebody, or maybe it's just the will. I don't know what that is. I think I always just had that in me.
Yeah.
But the resources now for children,
yes.
I'm sure I was dyslexic. I know I was called hyperactive. Now I know I have ADHD. But back then, I was just a kid who was bouncing off the walls.
Right. Getting on the teacher's nerves.
Getting on the teacher's nerves. So those are the kids you want to like, oh gosh, get her out of here. But doesn't mean you're stupid. Your brain's just wired different.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's nice now that I can share that with my kids. And like you said, the world, it's a much safer place now to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been seeing just, in the children that come into my office, I work with a lot of teens that experience that anxiety around measuring up. And again, we are in an area where you need to measure up. And more than measure up, you need to be above average.
You need to be the top.
Yes, exactly. And so that anxiety that comes with maybe not measuring up or not being good enough, that layers on top of whatever issue or challenge you might have. Not only you have your challenge, but then you also have the world around you saying you're not good enough. Instead of saying, push through, you can do it. This is just a small part of you. What are your other strengths?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fed into anything now. It's fed into, select sports. It's fed into SATs. Everybody has to be the top of everything.
Yeah.
I think of myself, I probably was in the bottom 5%. I know I probably was.
Yeah. But it didn't define you.
It did not define me.
Yeah.
But it took me years to
went on to have a successful marriage and, raise children and even having a business. So, but that was just a small part of.
Right. I guess with anything else,
absolutely.
It could have stopped right there and that would have been and I would have been in that hole. But again, I feel the grace of God was always like nudging me. And unbeknownst to me, because I really didn't know a lot about God until I was in college.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So earlier you mentioned you have adult children and you have younger children. Let's talk more about that. So tell me about that dynamic.
My husband and I were married in 1990. Our first child was a boy, Garrett. He's 25 and a half right now. He's married, been married about a year. He's, I would say, your typical first child, strong-willed, but drove me crazy, honestly. Thought, ooh, wow, I'm not sure what I get myself into here. But, he really emulated me a lot. He was, a lot like my personality, and he's a great man now. Garrett is, we call homegrown or biological child. And then Natalie is 3 years younger, and she's 22. Just got married in December. And I told you this.
Yes, and I want to talk about that.
Yeah. So when Natalie was in 6th grade, I had went to the school to do something. And this young man obviously looked like I didn't know where I was going. And he came up and said, can I help you, ma'am? And I don't even remember where I was trying to get in the school. So he, instead of like pointing his finger like a normal, he was in 7th grade at that time. He said, oh, I'll take you. So he took me to wherever we were going. And that afternoon when my daughter came home from school, I said, Nellie, I met a really nice boy at school. And she goes, Mom, that's like the middle school principal's son. And, she's 6th grade. She had no interest in boys. Fast forward to when she's in 11th grade and he asked her on a date and they started dating and they were just married December 15th of this year. Awesome. And his parents and my husband and I were both married the same day, the same year, the same time. So they chose the same date, December 15th.
Yeah.
So we all share the same.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
So his parents were married on December 15th. You all were married on December 15th.
The same year and the same time.
And the same time.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So as this was happening.
Yeah. Right. We're in Kentucky. They're in Georgia getting married.
Awesome.
And our kids get married.
And then they decided together that they would also make that their anniversary.
Yes.
That is such a cute love story. I love that. Yeah.
It's cute.
And so Natalie is your second.
Yeah, she's our second. And then when he proposed to me, I was a NICU nurse for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And I always had a heart for adoption, but I didn't really know where that was going to go because I didn't get married until I was I was 29, a little bit older.
And just, I'm going to stop you, NICU nurse.
Neonatal nurse, premature babies.
Okay.
And that, I mean, I just loved it. And in the NICU environment, my specialty was heart transplants and babies. And I was on the heart transplant team. So a lot of children adopted from China have heart defects. So we had, many babies that we would work on, or young children who would come for heart surgery. That kind of maybe was like the seed that was planted. And I just thought it was just such a neat thing that people would go across the world and bring an orphan back, knowing that if they were to stay there, they would never have lived.
Yeah.
Just because of the financial part of it, they're orphans, they're in orphanages, they don't have the finances to do open heart surgeries. And that has changed a little bit now. But so when he asked me to marry him, I said, I want to adopt him today. He's like, yeah, we had kind of talked about it. So we got married, and it was 2010, and it was in September, and Kent came home from work and he said, I think I'm ready to start this. And I said, I was in the kitchen making dinner, and I said, start what? He goes, yeah, I think I'm ready to start this adoption process. And I literally turned around and I went, who are you? What are you talking about? What? Okay, our kids are 17 and 15,
right?
18 and 15, or someone's just getting ready to go to college. I'm like, what? But I was so excited.
Yeah.
So we talked about it, and
20 years later.
And here's something else cool. So when we got married, we just had like a little tiny wedding, and we told ourselves we're going to save money, and on our 20th anniversary, we're going to go to Santorini, Greece.
Ooh.
So we had kept this different account, and we used every penny of that to adopt our daughter.
Oh,
and it was almost exactly the amount of money.
Really?
And I think about that now, and I think, again, I know God had kind of planned that the whole time. So when we were in China, and I'll never forget, so we went to China in 2010, and we adopted Emma Leao. She was 3 years old and 3 months. She has had 3 open heart surgeries. She was 17 pounds, and we adopted her. And she's petite, but I thought it was, when they brought her to us, and oh my gosh, this cannot be a 3-year-old child.
Wow.
Yeah, she's just teensy. I just remember sitting there thinking, wow, what? I wouldn't have missed it for the world. It's about $35,000 to adopt. Internationally, it is.
Okay.
We, unbeknownst to us, thinking we're going to Santorini, Greece.
Right.
The money just kind of was in there, and we decided we're just going to use that because we're not going to be going to Santorini. We have to bring a little girl home who needs, a lot of, medical care and stuff. I just remember that being such a surreal moment and thinking, wow, that's pretty cool, God, that you did that. Because finances is usually a huge deterrent for people to adopt.
Absolutely.
Understand it, because it's a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just the beginning, it sounds like.
Well, it actually is about the total. It's
it
the
was
total
the
amount.
total. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now it's about 30 to 35,000. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that means if people are thinking about adoption, especially international adoption, it's something that they need to plan for financially.
Yes. Most of the families that I work with are, a lot of them, they don't even have the $250 to start the application fee.
Wow.
And it's really part of the journey and part of God's story, and the planning of it is just watching how the finances come in for them to adopt. It's unbelievable. When someone will call me and say, we're interested in adopting, and we've looked at the website, and we know how much, and we see the application fee is $250. We don't even really have that right now, but over and over again, the money shows up. I mean, they're having a spaghetti dinner, or they're having a garage sale, and people come together, and it's really a cool thing.
Wow. And then it just continues to flow in.
Yeah.
See, and there's a saying that I have, and I say it on this podcast all the time, and that is, when you believe it, you'll see it right? So you got to believe it first, and then it just shows up.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, though, because if you don't believe it,
No,
yeah,
it's not coming.
yeah. It's like, well, like Tiger Woods always used to say, you say, I visualize my shot.
Yes.
And I hit it. I visualize where that ball's going to go. So it's
Exactly.
Kind of
it is.
same.
It is. Because visualization is that idea that you've already suggested it to your brain that it exists. Because before that, you can't get the idea that it exists, right? And if you don't believe that it exists, there's no reason you investing any idea that it will happen, right? But the moment you believe, or you can visualize it happening, then
this is more real.
Well,
and then you put one foot step the other.
Exactly.
Yes, right?
No sense in getting up, walking towards it if it's not even there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then our other daughter, Pearl, we adopted her in 2014. She had been adopted from China at 4.5 from another family. She had lived with them for 5 years, and they decided they no longer wanted to parent her. And what that's called is a disillusion. When a child is adopted internationally and they become a citizen of the United States, then the family decides they no longer want to parent that child. There's a very dark world underneath all this, and it's sex trafficking. It's unfortunately that falls into there. And I have a support group for adopted and foster moms. Pearl's former mother used to come to it, and she just always had negative things to say. And, so that was like a 2-year process. She would come in. So finally she got up one day and just kind of said something. I just kind of snapped. I said, you can't talk about a kid like that anymore. I said, well, that's not what we're here for. Fast forward about a year, and lots of little things happened, but we felt like, okay, maybe she was 9. Maybe we had heard that she was going to be given to another family, and she had been in several respite families. And generally what happens is they're taken, the parents just, I don't like to talk about it because it's just such an evil, ugly thing, but they're sold. And my husband and I said, okay, I think maybe we can adopt Pearl. I'm like, what? She's 9 years old. And, with radical attachment disorder and all those things.
I was about to mention that.
We were told that she did have RAD, but prior to adopting her, we were able to consult with the psychiatrist she had been seeing, and they said, no, she doesn't have RAD. She just has a lot of anxiety related to multiple things in the home environment. So Pearl's been with us now. She just turned 14. And I'm telling you the truth. She is the most kind, loving, forgiving, compassionate human being I've ever met in my life. Wow. And she has every reason to be pissed off at the world, to hate people, to not trust people, to just be mean. Because no one's treated her right. So I tell people this a lot in the support group that I have, that I believe God brought her to our family to change me, because she really has rocked my world in a way that I needed to be rocked. It hasn't been easy, but I can see that God has used her to change me. Yeah. And it really is a great picture of God's grace. And it's definitely not been easy. I love her with every I love her. I love all my kids. It doesn't matter if you birth them. That's just, I know. I get that comment.
I know that.
Yeah.
I have an adopted daughter.
Yeah. And, I can see why people ask that. Yeah. Is it the same?
Yeah. People do.
Yeah. It is the same. And then sometimes I feel like I have a little bit more compassion for my adopted girls. Not that I love them different, but I'm more compassionate because I know where they've been.
Exactly. Yeah. And the same, I have a stepfather, and I don't think that he loves me any less. But he had a daughter in his previous marriage. My mom had kids, and then they married. But I feel like he loves me as much as he loves
my stepdad the same way. Yeah. And he has other kids. I don't feel any different. No. I never did.
I was going to say also with Jocelyn, my daughter, she experienced a lot of trauma in her life too. And like Pearl, she is one of the kindest, most compassionate, most forgiving. And I remember this story. So she is in a interracial marriage. Her husband is white, and the family, not that they were prejudiced or anything, they just it was new for them. And so a lot of the ways that they would talk to her would hurt her feelings. And it's just cultural differences. So I would try to explain that to her, not to mention people just have their own stuff, right?
Sure,
so they're just dealing with their own stuff. Well, she would come back and she would cry, even like, well, Mom, they said this, or this is what's happening. And I'm like, okay, babe, let me say this. I said, I think what's happening is that you think that the world is like you. You're so sweet. Like, you're so kind.
That's Pearl.
And then she said to me, no, Mom, I think the world is like you. And I was like, then I'm crying. She was like, you accepting. You're the one who made me think that the world was kind. Like, everybody is not going to take you in and accept you the way that I have, but in the way that you accept other people. So because she is that kind, it does leave her vulnerable to be hurt. But she's so resilient. Like, she washes that off and she doesn't let it, she doesn't take it into the next relationship. She treats every person differently. Like, nope, that was that person's stuff. I'm going to be nice to this person. Yeah, it's so sweet to watch, though. Yeah, so
that's good to hear that, because I think when she gets older, when she gets married, and I think they all have an element of the abandonment issue there. And then even with Pearl, being with multiple families, and so that's our 4 kids, and you know what else I think about too? This is because as a therapist in me, when I talk to children who have experienced these things, who may have trauma in their life and who usually pass down through parenting, I'm wondering what trauma the parent didn't heal. Yeah, boy.
Right.
It's another big
and I know that people sometimes think it's like, oh, it's too late for me. I've already been through my stuff and my life is already a mess and there's nothing I can do. But there's always something that you can do. Like, if you can get the kids to heal, hey, that's so good. Absolutely. But even as an adult, you can heal.
I'm in that process right now. I'm going to counseling once a week now, and from things that I never healed from. I know it sounds crazy, but I didn't even know some things that had happened. Yeah. And then, I went away a couple summers ago for a 2-week intensive one-on-one counseling, and it's like a Pandora's box. And sometimes I want to shut that Pandora's box, and I think, why did I ever do that? And I know it's good, but I have come a long way. Yeah. So an old dog can learn new tricks.
Absolutely. You mentioned this about Pearl, but the same thing happened with Jocelyn. I learned so much about myself. When Jocelyn came into the house, I had to change. Like, first of all, I was at that point a single mom, which was something I never wanted to be. I was like, that ain't for me. I'm not doing it. I was all over birth control. Like, not my life.
Sign up for this one.
Exactly.
You get the wrong person.
So it was amazing that my heart was even open to, once I heard her story, it was like nothing. I couldn't walk away from it.
You can't say no.
Yeah, exactly. Just like you said with Pearl, I learned so much about myself, and it opened up like, oh, here's some stuff you need to heal. And I was able to heal it because I knew I had to get healthy for her.
For her.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I can identify with that. Well, for me, it was so much easier just to keep stuffing it back.
Yeah.
Because, I'm doing good. I'm getting through life. Everything's fine. And I knew, it came out with a vengeance at times, but I was able to keep it down at bay. When Pearl came into our house and our family, it was more frequent. I would feel like those wounds opening up. And I never was angry with her because I don't think I recognized it at first. I don't think I really put that together.
Okay.
Yeah. That her, and it wasn't her as a person. It's just the timing.
The situations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Same here. Yeah. That was a similar experience. I wouldn't have been able to put my finger on it until people kept saying to me, oh, she's so lucky to have you. And I'm like, no, I'm so lucky to have her.
That's a big trigger for me. I've had nails on home. No, she's saved me.
Yeah. Because at one point in my life, I was all about me. Being a single woman and making a certain amount of money. And it's just like, it was all about me for a while. And then when she came in, I just completely had to shift. We talked about that idea of prosperity shifting.
Sure.
Yeah. My idea of prosperity shifted in that moment. And so when people say, oh, she's so lucky to have you, I'm like, you have no idea what this person has brought to my life. Like,
And this person that, especially with orphans, and I don't know all of Jocelyn's story, but my girls, they were in orphanages. They had already been abandoned. They were already, and it's unfortunate, but you'll hear the term thrown away, not wanted. And that's reality. That is their story.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I need to candy coat that or make it soft. I've said, you know what? We don't know the reason behind why your birth parents did what they did. We can choose to believe they did it for the best. But if we know the Chinese culture, and I spent a lot of time in China, it's a different culture. It's a different mindset. Women don't have value there. So, and I've always told my girls that.
That's a good point.
And it doesn't mean that you're not important and you're not a precious child of God, but that's your story. And I don't think we need to candy coat it because it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've embraced that.
And that's empowering.
I think it's extremely empowering.
Yes.
I had a lot of naysayers like, I'm not sure you should go there. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell them
it's not like it's not going to come out.
It's not like they don't look like me.
Right. Yes.
And even when MLL was younger, she came home from school one day and she said, Mom, everyone in our family has black hair and brown eyes, but you. She said, so have you ever thought that maybe you're adopted?
Oh, that is so funny.
And it's funny because all my kids are all black hair, dark eyes, and I've got blonde hair and green eyes. I'm the only one in the family. Like, there you go.
That is so cute.
She said, but I do look like you, right? I said, oh yeah.
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 Uh-huh.
It's just sweet.
It is. It's so innocent.
Yeah. That she thought she looked like me.
Yeah.
She don't look like me. But it was the sweetest
But her
thing.
Spirit, I guess.
That's my mom.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that's when kids at school start asking, are you adopted? Is that your mom?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a transition too. We can talk a little bit about that, just that conversation. So you said you don't sugarcoat things. You're honest with them. So how do you think that's affected them to take that into school and be
I think it's definitely empowered them.
Yeah.
Emma Leal is her personality is, she's pretty self-assured, very self-confident for a child. So she's 10 and a half years old. She just weighs 40 pounds. So she comes up to here on her peers. I mean, she comes up to their
she's
chest.
pretty short. Okay.
She's tiny, tiny.
Okay.
And she'll say, Mom, everyone's always picking me up. And I said, you just need to say, don't pick me up. She's the
set
oldest
those boundaries.
Kid. Yeah. So I've helped her to set boundaries. You don't have to be mean, just say, please don't pick me up. And I said, if they don't honor that, you say, don't pick me up. Just say it a little bit.
Yes.
Always look them in the eyes. And she's the oldest in every class because she is older for her grade, but she's always tiny. And I think it has empowered her. So a couple weeks ago, I picked her up from school. She has vitiligo and where she's having laser therapy. So I pick her up every day, one day a week at school. And this little boy was out there waiting for his mom. And he said, are you adopted, Emily? And she said, well, no, I look just like my mom. I literally just about peed my pants. I'm very sarcastic.
Right. And so she picked that.
She picked that up.
The sarcasm.
And he goes, oh, yeah. And the secretary's on, and she goes, so she just kind of said that. And he's like, oh, yeah.
Right. So she's like, this is the way I see it, you're going to see it this way too.
Exactly. And he was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you find that really truly is the way it is. Going back to what we talked about earlier with, moving into a place where you have to keep up appearances and you feel like you have to assimilate to what's happening. She's saying, you're going to assimilate to me.
Yeah. And I thought that was the first time I'd seen that in her. I'd seen her do that. And I thought, wow, good for you. And it wasn't rude. It wasn't like sassy. It was just like, wow, that's pretty good, Yeah. So I think it's empowered her. Now, Pearl, because of Pearl grew up in this community. Her family we adopted her from.
Oh, right.
Was in this community. So, she had to go to a different school. And then we've been out a few times, which is really kind of remarkable in itself. We've never ran into her former family. And literally, they live in this community.
Wow.
And we did a lot of role playing initially. So if we run into them, this is what we're going to do. And like verbatim. Hi, nice to see you. You don't have to get into a big, long conversation. But Pearl has come a long way. Pearl does have anxiety. When she came to us, she was on a lot of psychotropic drugs. She takes 10 milligrams of Prozac now. That's it. She's does much better. And we've given her techniques.
Skills over pills.
Yeah, that's right. And she's really, she's really taken that in and empowered that. And she's that child that, and it makes sense to me now, she wants to always do the best. Like, you don't ever have to ask her to make her bed. Her bed's made before you ask her. And we talk about that, and we journal every day. We have journals, and I think the first year she was with us, she probably filled out 4 of them. Because I knew that she probably couldn't sit down and talk to me, but maybe she could write her feelings down.
Paper.
And those journals, I'm telling you, she poured her heart out in them. And so Emma, we've always journaled. My grandmother journaled, my mom journaled, I journaled. That's just something we've always done. And it's just really been a great tool for her to get it out. But now we'll talk about it and we'll say, how's things at school? It's okay if you don't. I think it was maybe she was with us like 4 or 5 months, and she came home and she had like a 92 or something. I'm like, oh, that was good. This is a C house kind of thing. I said, we have a smart one in the house now. Well, she literally gets on the floor and crawls around and growls. She was so devastated and defeated that, and this is when she was in 4th grade and she came to live with us. She didn't realize that a 92 was still an A.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And in her mind, everyone had to have A's. You had to have an A.
Oh, wow.
But she still struggles with that. She still sees her performance as her identity. Yes. And when you said she had anxiety, I was imagining that those were tied together. Yeah. And they usually are. Even the adults I see, that anxiety is about measuring up and being the top and being the best. And when you're not, and when you didn't do 100, it's either 100 or failed. Yeah,
right?
exactly. There's no 95 to say 90. You're still good.
Exactly.
Good. Yeah, we use a lot of, I guess, sarcasm and humor in our house, and it really has been good for her. I don't think she knew how to deal with that. Initially, I thought, she cannot handle this. She does not get the joke in what we're saying.
Oh,
so now she'll throw things out. And it's like, yes.
Yeah. Good one. Yeah. I can identify with that, because sarcasm is almost like a talent. It's a talent, and not everybody is born with it. So so you can learn to be sarcastic, or you can learn that trait, but not everybody is born with it. And some people are just so witty and quick. And I'm always fascinated by sarcasm, because I was like, wow, that was so good. But
it can come across very.
But it can. If you're not a sarcastic person, then you hear insult, or you hear,
I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
You forget your head if it wasn't connected. I remember saying that to her one time, joking, and she said, "Well." She took everything literally.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, oh no, that's not what I meant. I have a thing in our house, and it says, sarcasm is a service that Andrea provides to you for free. Somebody gave me that one time.
That's cute. Yeah, I've experienced that. I'm not that great at it, but I have been around enough people. I don't know, how the universe works. It'll bring you the stuff that you need. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I needed to be lighter. I needed to relax a little bit. So I do have a lot of sarcastic people around me. So it's something that I've learned over the years, but I can imagine taking things literal, because I used to take things so literal, and my feelings would be hurt. They wouldn't know it. But in my head, I'm like, I'll show them. Like, I'm not that. Whatever they just said, I don't even know what it was exactly.
Yeah. Right. And now Pert will say that. She'll articulate, like, Mom, what the heck did you even mean by that? I'm like, oh, yeah. Now we laugh about it. But, so I had to tone back. Our family had to tone back the sarcasm to honor her.
To get,
because she'd been hurt enough,
and meet her where she was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think they both are pretty empowered at school. Pearl, no matter what she does, like whatever sport she plays, whatever, she's got the Christian Character Award every year at school. She's just an amazing young lady.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't be prouder of her.
Oh, so there are 2 more questions that I want to ask you about. One is maybe the dynamic between having biological children and having adopted children. And I know you said that, there is no difference. You love them the same. Maybe have more compassion for the adopted ones. But between them, is there something you feel?
Our oldest is Garrett, and he has always just kind of been, I guess, your typical protective brother. When we told both Nellie and Garrett that we were going to adopt, it wasn't a surprise to them, because we talked about it before. they were very open to that. And Natalie, from the time she was old enough to talk, I would take her to the NICU sometimes, and she'd say, "Oh, Mommy, can we bring that baby sister home?" I said, "Oh, we can't bring that baby. That's someone else's baby."
Yeah.
So she begged, and every year for Christmas, she'd ask Santa for a little sister. So we happened to tell her on her 15th birthday that we were adopting. And she said it was the best birthday present she's ever had in her life. And she went to China with us. She was 15, and she was almost 16 by the time we got back. She was jealous. And that was something that I do share with parents, that I would never have thought this 16-year-old kid would be jealous. And she'll tell you now, it's not that she loved Emily. I mean, she could not get enough of her, but there was this element of jealousy.
Yeah.
Here's this little girl coming into my life, and I've been the youngest. And at 16, she's not being babied.
Yeah, but she's still the baby.
Yeah, she's still the baby. Yeah. So it was just kind of a different dynamic. But she's a special ed teacher now, and she just is just an amazing lady. But yeah, so that was kind of a different dynamic. And Garrett's always just loved him. And then when we brought Pearl, kind of the same thing. They were a little bit more worried about what Pearl was going to do to Emily. Oh, Mom, you're bringing in a 9-year-old. She's got a lot of baggage. What is she? And it worked out to be fine. I think we're better parents now, Kent and I. I think we learned, not to sweat the small stuff. Your first, now tell Garrett, dude, you were an experiment. I'm sorry. We did the best we knew what to do with you. And, with the subsequent, you just kind of think, well, things are different. But I think all of our kids, we have to parent differently. You can't, because you did this with this one, this is not going to work with this one. And I've never really fallen into the thing, well, just because this one goes and sits in timeout.
Right.
That didn't work for this one, so I'm not going to do that. And I think they knew right away that that's how we parented. We parented to our best of our ability what that kid, what that child needed.
Absolutely.
Discipline or praise or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like that. So the last question, and I want you guys to stay to the end for our 5-minute activation, but I like to ask this question because it's really helpful. And that is, what is the best marriage advice you've ever received, or the advice you wish somebody would have told you?
Okay, I think probably the best marriage advice, I don't really think I was given a lot of marriage advice. I was a little bit older when I got married, and most of our friends were married. But my grandma Ruby said to me one time, and they were married for 50 years or something, she said, it's a lot more than love. And there'll be days when you don't even like each other. And there'll be days when you may even throw out that, I wish I would have never married you. But it's a commitment. And it was the commitment part of it, to me, is what's always stood out. You make a commitment, and knowing that it's not always going to be as you think it's going to be as you're walking down that aisle, everything's going to be great. But the commitment part of it, it is a commitment. And once you make that commitment, and especially under, you're making a covenant to God when you get married. But I was divorced before. So I was married before.
Okay.
When I graduated college, I got married, and then there were several years between that. So I was divorced, and I guess Kent was just different. And we've had it's been a wonderful marriage, but it's been hard.
Yeah.
Very
hard. 27
hardest thing
years.
you'll ever do. Parenting's hard, but
yeah.
Bringing two broken people together, thinking you're going to figure it all out. Hello.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about that a lot too, because that brokenness, and if you're not willing to heal, if you're not even willing to heal for yourself, but so that you can stop hurting the other person, because usually what's hurting us is going to hurt our partner.
Oh,
yeah. So if you just healed, just so you can stop hurting other people in the world, take that idea and heal. Because some people say, well, I don't want to do the work, but
it is work. It's hard work.
Exactly.
It is hard work. It is very hard, and it's not easy, and it's not for the faint-hearted, and it's not. With our older kids are married now, you just see that bliss. And they both dated their spouses for quite a while.
Okay.
So they had their ups and downs and stuff. But you think, gosh, if we could only keep that moment when you're walking down that aisle and you're looking at each other, gazing,
right.
Soon enough, everything's gonna fall, and you're gonna have to be there to hold each other up. But if you're committed, I think that's a huge part. For me, that's a big part. And then just being grounded on God. Our marriage, my husband wasn't always there, and that was a hard walk, but I stuck
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah.
We stuck together, I should say. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you go through different things because, you stuck with him through his thing and then he stuck with you through your thing. And it goes back to that commitment. So if you commit to it, then when the times get hard, you can go back to your commitment. You can also go back to the bliss that you say.
Oh, yeah. And it does come. Yeah, that does. And it's maybe a little different. But yeah. And it may be because you see your kids do something, you look at each other and go, wow.
Like, yeah,
that's cool. That's what we did together. Yeah, and that may be the bliss right there. Maybe not the romantic bliss, and that can come in another time, but it's just different.
Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time out, obviously, but also thank you for how candid and vulnerable and open you have been, because I know that it's helpful to people to hear the real deal. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's a blessing to be able to share that with people.
Absolutely. And we will go right to our 5-minute activation. But in the show notes, we'll tell you how you can look up some of Andrea's resources.
It's time for 5-minute activation, a quick financial therapy session to get you activated and on your way to increasing the love and money in your marriage. So can I get 5 minutes of your time? Just 5 minutes for a financial therapy activation. Today, I want to talk to you about being equally yoked. Now, a lot of times when you hear that term, it's about religion, but there are a lot of other areas where a couple needs to be equally yoked. One of those areas is financially. You may have heard other 5-minute activations that talk about your money mentality, that also talk about navigating the money cycle. Well, if you're equally yoked, you'll know your partner's money mentality, and you'll both be working to become the president money mentality, but you'll also know the goal that you have associated with navigating the money cycle. So the money cycle is earn, grow, protect, gift, and enjoy your money. And how you navigate that money cycle is going to determine your lifestyle. What have you and your partner been out of sync on, especially when it comes to finances? So finances overlap in a lot of different areas because many of the decisions we make have a dollar sign associated with them. Even our religion, because some people like to tithe, right? So if you believe that tithing is 10% and your partner doesn't, then you guys are not equally yoked. Now, a lot of times these concerns can come out in premarital counseling. But if you didn't have premarital counseling, then maybe they didn't. Or if your premarital counseling didn't include finances, then, oh man, it probably didn't. And I find that some premarital counseling doesn't. So I end up talking to clients separately about finances aside from what they get from, their church or the person who's marrying them. Now, financially equally yoked doesn't necessarily mean you come with the same amount of money, or you're both earning the same amount of money, you've saved the same amount of money, or you have the smaller amount of debt, the equal amounts of debt. That is not necessarily what equally yoked means. What it means is that you have shared values around money, that you both know what money is going to do in your life. Right? And you don't necessarily have to have the exact same, because you probably won't. You were raised by two different families, so you're probably going to be different. But this is where it counts. What has to happen is that you have to align your goals with your partner's goals by listening, communicating what your values are, but also being open to incorporating some of your partner's values into your life. And that is what we call the marriage money mission. And the marriage money mission is the statement that you put together that is going to govern how you navigate the money cycle. So when I say you have to have shared values, what I mean is that you have to understand how hard you want to work to earn money. right? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to move to a city you hate? Are you willing to take a job you hate just because you like the paycheck? These are things that you discuss in the marriage money mission so that you can become equally yoked. Because let me say this, just because you're not equally yoked doesn't mean you can't become equally yoked. And that is why some of this comes out. If some of this comes out in premarital counseling, then you can then conquer this challenge and make sure that you guys are on the same page. And this goes for every area of the money cycle. So I only mentioned earn, but you'll have to do the marriage money mission statement to encompass all of the money cycle areas: earn, grow, protect, gift, and enjoy, and decide exactly how you're going to do each area. And with your values in mind, so that when our arguments do arise, all you have to do is consult the marriage money mission statement. You read it out loud and it shuts down any argument. Do we take this job? Is it in line with the marriage money mission statement? Yes, no. Answer, there we go. So if you are not equally yoked, you can still get there, and you can start with creating your marriage money mission. If you want to know how to do that, you start by being a member of the Prosperity Club. 2 ways. You can do the free membership. Just go to KeneQuarter.com/Facebook. Or if you're ready to join and make a commitment and invest in your marriage, you can go to KeneQuarter.com/prosperity-club. I'll see you there. Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you want more love and money conversations, subscribe to this podcast. Also, tell your friends about us. I'll see you next episode. But in the meantime, head on over to presidentiallifestyle.com for more tips, tools, and resources. And go ahead and leave us a comment if you like. We'd love to hear from you. This show is not to replace professional counsel. The best advice comes from a professional you know. The topics discussed in this podcast are general in nature and are for entertainment and informational purposes only. We encourage you to meet with a professional to discuss your specific situation, whether financial or therapeutic. That's all for now. I'll see you sooner. Remember, no matter what anybody ever tells you, you can have wealth in all of its forms. Believe it, and you will soon see it.